Hello darling, welcome back to my channel. How are you? I hope you're all well out there, and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for joining me for today's video because I have such an important message for all of you. As you know, I feel uncomfortable and emotional talking about domestic violence, but I am not going to let that stop me from educating you about it and teaching you how to stay safe in a relationship, a dangerous relationship and stuff like that. I'm not going to let it stop me. So today, I want to talk to you about being safe while you're stuck in a domestic violence relationship with an abusive partner. Now, as you already know, I am a recovering domestic violence survivor. I always want to use survivor instead of victim. And I thought I'm going to make a video about giving you my tips that I learned during my violent marriage and little things that make a big difference that keep you safe while you're in a domestic violence relationship. Okay, so let's get straight into it, shall we? Okay, so these tips are in no particular order. Oh, yes, and I wrote a note down here. And before I start, I just want you to understand that your safety and your children's safety is the most important thing. It really is. And if you don't feel safe in your marriage, you're not going to feel happy, because for you to feel joy in your relationship, you need to feel safe first and not the other way around. Okay, I've written down some notes. The cappuccino is good, just to make sure I don't forget anything. Okay, so let's get straight into it, shall we? And so, my first tip is, when you begin a new relationship with your new boyfriend, and when you see the first red flag or warning signs, that's it. Game over. Get out of there immediately. Because if you don't, I can guarantee you that those red flags and warning signs will continue, and they will gradually become worse and worse and worse as time goes on. And also, when you see those warning signs, that's the real him. That's the real personality of your new boyfriend. And you're not going to like those warning signs, so that's telling you you're not going to like him. It's obvious, isn't it? And don't make the mistake of thinking that, it will be okay, because I can guarantee you it's not going to be alright. Just because there's a time span in between the warning signs and the red flags doesn't mean anything. I feel like crying again. And from my personal experience, it's easier and better to leave in the beginning than what it is later on when you've been in a relationship for a long time. And also, Don't believe him when he apologizes to you for slapping your face and accusing you of cheating on him. You know, and when he says, oh, I'm sorry, I won't do it again, it won't happen again, and blah, blah, blah. Because it will happen again and again and again and again. And what will happen is that you will just end up losing your confidence over time, and you just lose yourself to that relationship, and in the end, you'll just be a shadow, a battered person who's a shadow of yourself, and you don't want that. So therefore, when you start a new relationship with a new boyfriend, and when you see the first red flag or warning sign, whatever that may be, it doesn't matter how big or how small that warning sign or red flag is. It's just an indication to get out of there immediately. And if you do that, that means that you will have dodged a bullet and you would have saved yourself from being abused later on. Okay, so that's one page. Okay, that can go down there for now. Okay, now up to page 3. I'm just going to have some cappuccino. Quite a nice day today. The weather's perfect. I mean, here in Australia, we're in the middle of winter. And it feels and smells like spring. I wish it could be like this all day, every day, because that would be nice. Okay, so my second tip is always listen to your intuition and your gut feeling. Even when you're in doubt or you're not sure or whatever, always listen to your intuition because it's always right. I mean, it took me a long time to learn that because when I was married, I didn't listen to my intuition, which I should have, but I do now. So that's one thing that I have learned from that marriage. And if I had have listened to my intuition back then and followed my intuition, I would have been a lot safer, but because I didn't, I always found out and saw that my intuition was always right, which was, for me, disappointing. I was upset with myself for not listening to my intuition. And if something doesn't seem right or feel right, that means something isn't right. Even though you may not know what that is, you will still know that there's something going on that shouldn't be. And so always be aware of things and take notes. So that's my second tip. Always listen to your intuition. And not just listen to it, act on it too. Because by listening to your intuition as well as acting on it can save you your life. Okay, my third tip is have a safety and an evacuation plan. Know these plans off by heart, and your trusted friend or family members need to know your safety plans and your evacuation plans off by heart too. For example, in my safety plan, when my ex-husband, like example for the time when he smashed all the plates. He just went in the cupboard and And I saw the plates, the bowls, everything. And then he looked at my son and I and said, oh, look at what you make me do. And he blamed us for it, and we were like in shock, you know. And I had to go buy new plates and colour. It was just a joke. But the point I'm trying to make is that I didn't complain about it. I didn't tell him to stop doing that. I didn't complain about having to clean up the mess. What I did was I just didn't say anything at all. And I cleaned up the mess without complaining or anything, even though I didn't want to, and I really felt so frustrated. I wanted to go blah, blah, blah to him, but I knew it was safer for me to act that way for now. So that's why I did that, because I had to do whatever I could to help keep the situation calm and stop it from escalating. Because when things escalate, that's when danger comes into it. And that is what I was trying to avoid. And I used to always say to my son, don't complain to your father. Because every time he did, my ex-husband just retaliated triple-fold with his misbehaviour. And I could clearly see that my ex-husband was enjoying being in that state of mind. So therefore, by me ignoring him, not complaining, not saying anything, just cleaning up the mess that he made without complaining or anything, helped keep the situation. Because when I did that, he would just go back to watching the television. Whereas when my Daniel would say, oh, blah, 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 to my ex-husband, it motivated my ex-husband to keep going. And not only keep going, he behaved much worse. So you see what I mean? You have to figure out things that work for you. And of course, every domestic violence relationship is going to be different. And what might work for me may not work for you or someone else, and vice versa. So you just have to try anything and everything and take note of what works for you, and then act on those, I call them strategies. And I wrote them down in my safety plan, saying strategy 1, don't complain, blah, 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 strategy 2, and so on. So, yeah. I mean, it's not nice being in a domestic violence relationship. I know there's no good or happy days. You never feel safe, and you don't know if you're going to die or not, but you know you're always not going to be okay. It's just a horrible feeling. It's just such a trying time, which is so exhausting. It's really not worth it. So if you can remember the first tip I said about leaving your new boyfriend on the very first red flag or warning sign, that is the best tip out of all of them that I can give you. So please, as soon as you say any changes, get out of there immediately. He's not worth it for you. Trust me, he's not. I'll say it again. He is not worth it for you. And I don't want to see you or anyone else go through what I went through and what a lot of other people have gone through too. Okay, my fourth tip is to have an emergency bag packed. Now in this bag, which you're going to keep in a safe place, that is also easy for you to access in case you need to leave quickly. And in this bag you're going to have whatever you need that you may need to live on during an emergency crisis. So in this bag you're going to have clothes, toiletries, prescriptions, money, whatever else you may need to live on during an emergency crisis. So you have this bag packed, you have it put inside somewhere that's safe, that he can't find. He does not know about this bag. The only people that know about this bag is you and your trusted friend or family members. So, if he comes home all of a sudden and he had a bad day at work and he starts being abusive and violent and threatening, and if you have to make a quick run for it, whether you keep that bag in the boot of your car and make make a camouflage wall or something, I don't know, but where you can grab that bag easily, even if you keep it at a friend's place or somewhere, so you can take off and grab that bag and just go. So what you're doing is you're planning your safety and thinking ahead of time, because that's what you need to do in a domestic violence relationship, and I'll explain why later on towards the end of this video. Hey, I'm back here. So stop turning around on me now. Okay. What did I just say? I'm not talking to you, I'm talking to my thing that holds my phone. Okay. Okay, that can go down there. It's another paper done. Now I'm up to the 5th page. I hope you've made a cup of tea or a cup of coffee. Okay, my 5th tip is have a code word that only you and your trusted friends or family members know. And this code word must not be an obvious word. It must be a word. So when you say this word, just say, for example, your friend calls you on the phone saying, oh, I'm just checking up on, and straight away you say that code word, whatever it may be, then your trusted friend or family members will know that there's a domestic violence dispute happening, and they will call for help for you and call the police for you, and so that's a great tip, having a code word. Okay, my 6th tip is when you have to call the police, don't let him know that you're calling the police or calling someone else to call the police for you. What you do is you grab your phone and go into another room, whether it be the toilet, bathroom, bedroom, or even outside, somewhere where he can't hear you, and then you dial the emergency number in your country, and then when they answer it, you whisper into your phone, and remember, even if they don't hear all the details, it doesn't matter, because they know your phone number, they know your address. And I did this one when I went into the bathroom to call the police, and I whispered to the phone, and my ex-husband heard from the lounge room, and the bathroom was up the other end of the apartment, and every time I went to call the police, they would come in and I would hang up the phone, and I'm thinking, oh no, I've just wasted my time. But no, because at midnight that night, 2 police officers came to the door to make sure I was okay. So there's a thing to think about. Okay, so my seventh tip is to keep a journal. This is going to be your domestic violence journal, where you are going to write down what happened, how you felt, the time, the date, and any other important information. In this journal, you're also going to write, you're going to have your safety plan, your evacuation plans, and any other plans you may have. You're also going to keep in this journal, all the numbers, phone numbers, and email addresses of all the important people in your life, as well as domestic violence services that will be helping you. You have all the details and everything must be in this one book. And again, just like your emergency bag, this journal, you need to have a safe place to hide it in. He must not know about this journal, and because I can guarantee you, if he finds this journal, he's going to use that against you, and he's going to, oh my God. All I can say is I hope he doesn't kill you or hurt you so bad. It's just wrong. It really is. So your journal, you're going to have a safe hiding place for it, but again, it's also going to be somewhere safe, but also easy for you to access. And the only people that are going to know about this journal, as well as where it is located, is going to be you and your trusted friend or family members, and nobody else. You know me, nobody else. Okay, my 8th tip. Get hidden cameras installed at home and around your property, like out the front, in the backyard, even in the shed or garage if you have one. And again, your abusive partner must not know about them. On today, you can buy, inexpensive, small tiny spy cameras online, and they work really well. And remember, even though cameras can't save your life, they can show what happened and at what time and the date too. Now, I'm going to give you an example. Sometimes I think I can't keep going, but I have to, because it's too emotional, and the examples I'm using are real life examples of myself as well as other people. So, sorry, I kicked the table then, so it just hurts. Yeah. So what happened was, now this is just one story, there is many of those stories so similar. So there was this young mother, and she had, let's just say, I won't say her name or anything, but she had some small children, and she wasn't with the father of her children, but she did have a boyfriend. Now at this point of time, she had an intervention order out on him because of his domestic violence, of course. And she didn't have any surveillance cameras at home or around the property. So her kids were at school one day, and they come home to find her dead in the garage. And at first the police thought it was suicide because of the facial injuries or whatever. I don't know but why. But as they investigated, they realised it wasn't. Her ex came and murdered her in their garage. So therefore, what the point I'm trying to make is that if she hadn't had a camera in the garage and around her place, the police would have known exactly what happened and at what time too. So even though they couldn't save her life, at least they would have known where to start their investigation instead of assuming, oh, it was suicide and giving him, while they're investigating, they give him time to escape, because that's one of the worst things that can happen is when the perpetrator escapes and gets away with it. You see what I mean? So if she had it, they ended up catching him in the end. But what I'm trying to say is that if she hadn't had the cameras, they could have got him. They could have got him straight away, arrested him straight away, without giving him time. Because all they were doing, by assuming that she committed suicide, all the police were doing was giving him time to escape and move on. And therefore, once they realised what actually happened, they're like, they've got to go find him. And that took a while. So it pays to have cameras. Okay. My ninth tip, I'm going to drink this. Learn self-defense. It's an obvious one, isn't it? If you learn self-defense, whether it be karate, kickboxing, whatever, not only will you be, it will keep you fit and you can have fun, you're going to learn to defend yourself, which is quite handy. So therefore, when you begin, if you begin a new relationship with your new boyfriend and he starts misbehaving and he comes and lashes at you, you will know what to do. And he's going to be like, I better not hurt her, because if I do try, she's going to hurt me more, And if that's the case, he will just leave you anyway, because he wants someone who is weaker than him. And that's what will happen. So even if you're in a domestic violent relationship and you don't have defense, you can go and learn self-defense anytime. And if you don't have the money, go to this domestic violence services, tell them what you want to do, and they will pay for you to learn. Okay, my 10th tip is, give your trusted friend and family members a copy of all the important people in your life, including their phone numbers and addresses, in case of any emergency. So as I mentioned before, in your journal, in your domestic violence journal, you write down all the important people's information in your life, their phone numbers, addresses, email addresses, whatever, But also your trusted friend and family members, as well as the domestic violence services that you are going through, they must have a copy of your domestic violence journal too. Okay, 11th tip. Get in touch with the Family Violence Services Centre. Of course, that's logical, isn't it? I know. So if you don't know where to go, you just get your smartphone and Google domestic violence services near me. And then contact them straight away. If you can't, get your trusted friend to contact them for you, because you're going to need counselling I mean, domestic violence services, they can help you in so many ways besides counselling. They can help you with court papers, getting court papers ready for court. They can help you get a new place. They can help you with your intervention order. So many things. So, I mean, that's the only reason why I'm here now. This is the front door of my apartment. And the only reason why I'm here now is because of the family violence services. They reimbursed me my car that my ex-husband stole. They gave me my kitten Kelly, big fat baby, and my apartment too, as well as amongst other things. So, as well as petrol vouchers. So I had free petrol and. Yeah, they gave me my life back, which is great, and they will do the same for you too. So the sooner you get involved in touch with the domestic violence services, the better. Okay, my 12th tip is, in your phone, have the phone numbers and addresses and information for the emergency accommodation services, example like safe steps and etc. Whereas if you need to get out of there, out of your house immediately, and you've got nowhere else to go, and you have no family members or friends who can help you out, you can call the emergency accommodation services, and they will in your area, and they will pick you up and take you to a safe house. Remember, it's really good. Okay, 6 I can go down there. One paper left to go through. Okay. Hang on a minute. I think I've missed something. Oh, that's right, yes. That's what I forgot to mention. Is the best advice I can give you is prevention, because prevention is better than cure, and it's much cheaper too. Because if you follow the first tip, which is to leave immediately, when you see the first red flag or warning sign, then you won't have to worry about all the other safety tips, because you would have dodged a bullet and avoided, all that nastiness, and saved yourself from being abused. So again, that's one of the best. Again, I'll say it's one of the best. Oh my God, I think I'm gonna cry. One of the best tips out of all of them that I can give you. And also, don't make the error of thinking like I did. When he keeps asking you where you've been and who you've been talking to, don't think, oh, he loves me. That's not true. That's not the case at all. Because when they do that, it's because they have an agenda. And what that means is when they do that, they're going to, it's an indication that they're going to isolate you from your friends and family members. And you don't want that. I have been through the isolation period too, and it's not nice, you know, because you're not allowed to have any friends, you're not allowed to go anywhere or do anything, and, you know, and then you won't be allowed to talk to men, because even if you just say hello to men on the street, just innocently, they accuse you of cheating on him. That's another red flag and warning sign. So when he says to you, who have you been talking to? Where have you been? Get out immediately. Okay, where's our next one? Oh, that's right, because it's just controlling behaviour. Okay. And remember, you're better off being on your own than being stuck in a domestic violence relationship. At least being on your own, you don't have to worry about, you know, safety tips and things like that, because there's no one there to hurt you or argue with you, you know. And I know from my experience as well that, I mean, people who are single, who are not in a domestic violence relationship, are much more happier than the people who are stuck in domestic violence relationships. So there's a thought for you. Okay. My next tip is, if you have to get an intervention order, do it. However, there are ways to go about doing it. You have to do it in a safe way, because remember, your safety and your children's safety is the number one priority, no matter what. So what you do is you go to the court and you go get the intervention order, and then you go somewhere. Well, the further away you go, the better, the safer and better you will be. Like interstate, or into another country, or even if it's just on the other side of town, but a place where your ex doesn't know of. So you and your trusted friend or family members, you take off with you and your children to wherever you're going to go. So you're going to go to a safe place first before you're going to get someone else to deliver the intervention order to your ex-partner. You will not, never ever deliver it yourself, because if you do, he's going to kill you. And even if he's never hit you and it's just been like emotional abuse, remember that's domestic violence too. And just because he's never hit you doesn't mean to say that he's not going to hurt you or kill you now, because he will. And they can be, and people that don't hit, the ones who don't hit their partners, but they're like emotional. And when the time has come for, you know, the spouse to get an intervention order on her husband or boyfriend, the statistics show that they are the worst. They're the ones who kill the most. And I better not go into any more details because it's a bit gruesome, but I'll talk about that in another video. So, because you have to remember is that the separation period is the most dangerous period throughout the whole duration of the relationship. So that's why you must be extra careful during the separation period. Okay, right. So, what else do we have here? Oh, okay. Okay, so my last tip for today is my cappuccino's going cold. It's cold. Okay. Now this is another one of the best tips that I can give you as well, besides the leaving immediately when you see the first red flag or warning sign. And that is so, you meet this guy somewhere, be a nightclub, at a bar, at the park, wherever, and it seems really nice, and, you two get on like a house on fire, and you start seeing each other, and you're starting off because you notice all relationships start off in this honeymoon phase. But just because he seems charming, talkative, nice, intelligent, whatever, doesn't mean to say that's the real him. Because if you notice with all relationships and domestic violence relationships, they all start off that way. I mean, they have to, because if your partner shows you his real self at the beginning, you're not going to start a relationship with him, are you? No. And men know that. That's why they always start off the relationship being nice, and then they start to change later on, and they gradually change, and then it's always the same pattern with domestic violence relationships. So what you do, it's much easier today because of social media. Back in my heyday, we didn't have social media, and life was a lot slower back then in the 90s, and the only thing that we had besides the landline telephone was the fax machine, which was no good to me. So the only thing that I had, the only resource I had to rely on for information about my ex-husband was his family and my best friend. And so therefore, I thought I was marrying a decent person because of what they said, and then later on I found out that that was not true and that they deliberately lied to me. And that's why when you go to find out things about your new partner, that's why you don't go and find out through his family. What you do instead, you use social media and you find out whatever you can about him. The best place to start is if you can find an ex-girlfriend and find out why they separated. And you can also find out through his peers and acquaintances. So when you find out things, you must do this because you want to find out if he's speaking the truth to you about himself, and also, hello darling, and also because he just may not be the same person that you think he is. You know what I mean? Because, like for example, like my situation, I thought I was marrying someone who was decent, but he was really a monster. So it's most important that you find out about him, because if his ex-girlfriend said that, she left him because he was violent or lied to her or cheated on her or whatever he's done to her, he will do to you. And I learned that the hard way for myself, because when I spoke to my ex-husband when I first met him, not long after I first met him, but before we got married, I spoke to his ex-girlfriend, and she said to me the reason why she left him was because of his violence, and he wouldn't stop. Now, this is a mistake that I made, and I want you to make sure that you don't make the mistakes that I made, okay? So what I did was I assumed wrong. And I'm thinking, oh, she's just saying that because she's a jealous ex-lover. No, that's not the case at all. Remember, she's not the jealous ex-lover because she's happy to move on with her, Mr. Right. If I had have listened to her, I could have left before the abuse started and I would have saved myself. Because what happened was, at that point of time, this was before we got married, so we were during the honeymoon phase, you know, where my ex-husband was acting like a decent person. But it wasn't until on our wedding day that he actually changed permanently, and I saw his true colours, and then everything his behaviour suddenly matched everything that she said. So take note, because even if she says something about her ex-partner, which is now your new boyfriend, take note, even if it hasn't happened, because what she's saying is that it could happen in the future. You see what I mean? So that was another thing that I learned the hard way. Okay, and put that down there. Okay. I'd better finish this cappuccino. Okay. Before I finish, I just want to mention one more thing. Is that never turn your back on your ex-partner. When you're in a domestic violence relationship, you have to always be on your guard. Never let your guard down. But you can't always not turn your back on your partner, you know? So what you do is you watch him in the mirrors or in the reflection of the windows. Now this here is mirrors. Can you see that? Now these mirrors are just cardboard. Now these are perfect because, especially if you're living in a rental, because you can stick them on the wall and you won't ruin the wall. And like you could stick them all over the place and have like one whole wall in each room, you know, with these, and they'll look good. But not only do they look good, they also serve another purpose in keeping you safe. Because you want to be able to see, because these are going to be the eyes in the back of your head. So if your ex-husband or your partner or whoever comes up behind you and you see in the mirror, you can save yourself. Because if he bops you in the back of your head, you won't know what he is. And not only that, you won't be able to save yourself. And when something happens, you want to be able to defend yourself as best as you can, don't you? And there was another thing that I learned the hard way too. Because we were in our bedroom one day, and I remember it was Monday morning, and I had my back towards my ex-husband, and all of a sudden I just felt this excruciating pain in the back of my head. And when I turned and looked at him, he was holding my handbag in one hand and the metal strap in the other hand, and he hit me with the metal strap from my handbag. And I looked at him like, you know, and I'm like, what is it up for? And all I said was, back off, get out. And I'm like, what? He goes, oh, back off, get out, you know. So I went back home to my parents' place, and 9 o'clock that night, my left ear started bleeding. So that was the moment when I learned not to turn your back on your partner while in a domestic violence relationship. And if I had known about those back in the heyday, I would have had those up all over the world, because if I had it, I could have helped myself. So you can buy them online, you can buy them in party shops, so on. So that was another thing that I want you to know. Because all of these tips are going to be in my book, The Spider Feeling, which will be ready available, I think, later this year. I'm not sure what month, whether it'll be November or December. But all these tips and a lot more information will be in there. So I thought I would make a video about giving you some tips on how to stay safe while you are in a domestic violence relationship until you are safely out of it. Because, like I said before, your safety is the most important thing, and I can't stress enough. Because it's dangerous. It's like, the best way I can describe it, domestic violence is like war. It's the same kind of thing, but the only difference is that one is on a larger scale, which is the war. I mean, it's like, it's the same thing, but, oh my God, I'm going to cry. I mean, it's like being in a Holocaust or a concentration camp, because that's exactly what happens is when you're in a domestic violence relationship. Because when you're stuck in a domestic violence relationship with an abusive partner, your home certainly becomes your concentration camp. I think, oh my God, I'm going to cry again. That's the best way I can describe it. Okay, this video's been going for almost an hour now, so I'm going to end it because I don't want it to be too long. So thank you for joining me for today's video, and I hope I can help you with some of my tips to help you keep safe, or at least be a bit safer during your relationships. If you have any tips on being safe, or if you want to know any advice, just send me a message in the comments and I'll get back to you. And because domestic violence is such an important issue, whether you want to acknowledge it or not, because domestic violence is the leading cause of death in today's society, which outdoes both car accidents, suicides and overdoses. 1 woman dies from domestic violence every week. However, domestic violence is getting worse. Now, it's 1 in every 4 days who is dying from domestic violence. And I'm still recovering from that violence. And like I said, I've got PTSD, anxiety, depression, and nightmares won't stop. It's not worth getting involved into a domestic violence relationship. And so like I said, the best tips I can give you is to check him out first, and that way you will know whether to pursue a relationship with him or not. And also, and if you do, and if you see the first red flag or warning sign, that's it, just get out. That's the best advice I can give you, because that's the only way you can avoid getting involved into a domestic violence relationship. Because I mean, domestic violence can be cured just like that, immediately. All that needs to happen is for men, and some women do, to stop being abusive. But unfortunately, that's not going to happen. So we have to take matters into our own hands, and this is how we're going to do it. And we use education to teach others, because back in my heyday, we lived in a different society back then compared to today. Whereas today, you can talk about anything and everything. Back then, you weren't allowed to talk about taboo subjects like domestic violence, and domestic violence was commonplace back then, as well as acceptable. And if you got abused by your partner, you weren't allowed to complain about it or talk about it, and if you died, oh well, you died. You just go to the cemetery and you just start to live life with someone else, and the pattern goes on and on and on and on. It doesn't stop. So that's why it's up to us to try to do whatever we can to help stop domestic violence, or at least slow it down. And I know change is slow. However, I think slow change is better than no change at all. Okay, so I'm going to wrap up this video. It's coming up to 1 hour now. And remember, please stay safe. Do whatever you have to do to keep situations in your relationship from escalating. Try to keep everything as calm as you can, and take the first opportunity you can to leave. Okay, so thank you for joining me for today's message, which is very important. I hope I could help some people. God bless you. Bye-bye.